All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Benoît Leguet. I'm the Managing Director of I4C, the Institute for Climate Economics, as well as a body to provide advice to the government on its policy with regard to climate change. So in a nutshell, I will start my presentation. If you could display the slides, please. I have a very short presentation for you guys. The title of the presentation is Making Well-Informed Investment Decisions, Taking Climate Issues on Board. Before I set out, a few words on who I am. I talked about the French Climate Change Committee. That's one of my hats. And my CRC, the Institute for Climate Economics, is a think tank on the economics of climate change. We have a very strong economic and financial focus, and our realm of interest, our raison d'être, so to speak, is to integrate climate change into the decision-making processes of different organizations. We're founded by Caisse des Dépôts, a French long-term investor. You might know them, I take it, but also Agence Française de Développement, the French Environment Agency, and we have also Banque de France on our board. Before I set out, a few words. I'm not going to talk about the whole I'm only going to talk about climate. That is basically the transition to a low carbon, net zero, and climate resilient economy. On the climate side, we collectively, I'm talking about the financial community, we've made good progress and we're well aware that we cannot take the climate in isolation. Yes, thanks for keeping this slide. So then again, I'm not going to talk about the whole ESG spectrum, focus on climate. Now, if I set out on substance, the main question I would like to ask you today is basically, what is your role as investors, as asset managers, etc.? What is your role in the low carbon transition, in the transition to a low carbon and climate resilient economy? And basically how you can, and if I may, how you should integrate climate issues into your decision making essentially depends on your mandate, whether you're a public, private, or mission-oriented institution, and it also depends on your interpretation of fiduciary duty. So that's basically what it boils down to. And generally speaking, there's two different perspectives. That's one perspective. And on the right-hand side, you have an alignment contribution to climate goals perspective. Each perspective will come along with different approaches and results, as basically managing your climate-related risks does not necessarily positively affect the attainment of climate goals and vice versa. There is no obvious connection between basically managing your risks and having an impact on climate goals. However, both approaches can be combined, and that's the good piece of news. Now, depending on your mandate, and that's essentially a question that is turned to you, depending on your mandate, you may want to have a minimal integration approach, managing only financially material climate-related risks, for example, or aiming for a do no harm strategy, or you may choose to optimize your positive contribution to climate objectives. That is basically on each of the approaches you see on the slide, moving towards the inner circles to have more impact or a more thorough integration of climate change into your approach. So if I may do a little bit of advertisement. Yes, okay. Hang on, a technical glitch here. Okay, if I may do a little bit of advertisement, we've done some work at I4C. We've published a report which is entitled A Framework for Alignment with the Paris Agreement. Why, what, and how for financial institutions. So that's basically a resource I can direct you to if you want to know more about those approaches. But basically, that is, one, manage financially material, physical, and transition risks. Hang on, leave it on the first slide, on the first contents. second is manage your climate impacts, and the third is manage both while actively engaging with your counterparty to improve their resilience and transition strategy. That's basically aiming to make a positive contribution to climate goals. On the slide, which is now displayed, you have a good piece of news. Now, your question would be, okay, how, where resources that can provide some orientation for you guys. Now, I'm only going to direct you to a couple of resources made by I4C, not because they're the rest of them. 3 resources you can read, direct to. First of all, we've produced an alignment cookbook, which is basically a report, a cookbook, let's put it that way. We've done this with Institut Louis Bachelier, the French Ministry for Environment, and the WWF. That's basically a cookbook which explains the alignment of a financial portfolio with a low carbon trajectory, how they're built, what is their coverage, and what are their the difference between the different methodologies. So basically, it allows you to choose your methodology provider in an intelligent fashion. Second resource, free of charge as well, Climinvest. That's a fully fledged tool I can direct you to is climate-related disclosure. So I'm not going to blab much about it. It will be published later in the month, possibly the day after tomorrow, or Wednesday today. Also on Friday, it will be published. We'll be publishing a report on climate-related disclosure, which has helped inter alia feed the French government on its regulation. And there's lots of other resources you can have a look at. Have a look at the Bank of International Settlements, for example, a website, and also the Center for Economic Policy or the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. That's basically all you could have a look at. There's lots of free resources. That's basically the key message I would like to convey today. On the next slide, please, if you will. Yes. 3 key messages to wrap up my short presentation. 3 key messages. First, don't expect an easy fitting. I mean, there is I've put a robe here. Don't expect there is no off-the-shelf satisfactory solution for any of the issues you would like to tackle. Whether we talk about risk, whether we talk alignment, whether we talk about contributions to a low carbon climate resilient economy, there is no satisfactory ready to use solution. The state of the methodology market is only in its infancy today. So you will need to possibly take one of those tools and possibly, that's the next slide, please, tailor it to your needs. You would need to tailor those methods to your needs. So that's basically needs, you can talk to service providers, talk to them, but you will also need to actively engage with those providers, with methodology providers. You will essentially need to build up an in-house resources to understand, improve, and tailor methods to their needs. So that's basically what you will need to do. So roll up your sleeves, get ready to roll up your sleeves. On the last substantial slide, if you will, the bad piece of news is building up the resources I mentioned will cost money. So that's the bad piece of news. But in Europe, you can either treat this as a compliance question and costs could possibly easily overshoot your compliance budget, or you can see it as a worthwhile investment into future-proofing your business. Needless to say, that's the stance I take. We're essentially talking about future-proofing your business and not so much about compliance. Having a risk-free, quote-unquote, carbon-free and resilient proof environment is something that you will need to do business in the future. So basically, I will wrap up and send you to the initial question. What is your role in the low carbon transition? My take, but that's also an open question to you. Your role is basically to future-proof your business with regards to climate change, and whether you want to have some impact, align, or take a risk approach, that's basically your shot. I don't have a call on that, and that's basically what the type of question you need to answer in the coming days, weeks, months, and then, like I said, roll up your sleeves and possibly invest a little bit of money in taking climate issues on board into your decision-making processes. Having said that, I guess I can wrap up. I've held the 10-minute mark. So if it's okay with you, I'll stop right now. And if there's any question, I'd be happy to take them up.